I never thought much about changing my diet. For decades, I stuck to the meals I'd always known: breakfast of eggs and toast, lunch packed with sandwiches and chips, and dinner heavy on meat and potatoes. I figured if it worked for me in my 40s and 50s, it would keep working now that I was 67. But lately, things weren't feeling right. I'd wake up tired even after a full night's sleep, and by mid-afternoon, my energy would plummet. Digestive discomfort was becoming a regular visitor, too: bloating, irregularity, and that nagging heaviness after meals. At first, I shrugged it off, blaming the stress of retirement or maybe just getting older. But the discomfort wouldn't relent. My name is Margaret Lewis, and I'm a retired school librarian. I've always prided myself on being independent and sensible, especially when it came to my health. But these new symptoms made me uneasy. Was my body telling me something? Did my old ways of eating no longer fit who I was now? One afternoon, after feeling particularly drained, I sat down with a cup of chamomile tea and started searching online. The internet is a wild place for health advice, but I was determined to find something that made sense for someone my age. I read about high-protein diets, touted as essential for seniors to maintain muscle mass. Others preached low-carb plans, suggesting cutting down on bread and pasta to avoid weight gain and blood sugar spikes. Supplements like vitamin D, omega-3s, and probiotics seemed to be everywhere, promising to fill nutritional gaps. I decided to give a few things a try. I started adding more lean meats and beans to my meals, thinking protein would help my energy. I swapped white bread for whole grain and cut back on sweets. I even bought a pricey multivitamin, hoping it would cover any holes in my diet. For a while, I felt a flicker of hope, but the problems didn't vanish. Sometimes the new foods upset my stomach, and the fatigue lingered. I felt confused and frustrated. Why wasn't this working? One afternoon, I met my friend Janet for coffee. Janet is 2 years younger but has always been more health conscious. Over lattes, I confessed my struggles. She listened patiently and then said something that stuck with me: Margaret, our bodies change as we age. What worked before might not anymore. It's not just about eating more protein or cutting carbs. It's about understanding what your body needs now. That conversation opened a new door for me. Over the next few weeks, I started paying attention to how I felt after different meals. I noticed that heavy, greasy foods made me sluggish, and sugary snacks gave me a quick rush followed by a crash. Foods rich in fiber, like vegetables and whole grains, seemed to ease my digestion. But I wondered if this was enough. Was there more beneath the surface? Curious, I scheduled an appointment with my doctor. Dr. Patel is kind and thorough. After discussing my symptoms and diet, she explained that as we age, our metabolism slows down, and our bodies absorb nutrients differently. She mentioned that older adults often struggle to get enough vitamin B12 and vitamin D, which are crucial for energy and bone health. She also warned me that some foods I'd eaten for years might now contribute to inflammation or digestive issues. I know it's hard to rethink habits you've had for decades, Dr. Patel said gently. But your body's needs have changed. It's important to adjust your diet to match those changes, rather than sticking to what feels familiar. Her words resonated deeply. I realized I'd been holding on to my old eating patterns out of comfort and habit, not because they were serving me well anymore. It was time to confront the fact that aging meant my diet had to evolve too. Eager to learn more, I began reading books and articles recommended by Dr. Patel and reputable health organizations. One important insight was that slower metabolism means my caloric needs had decreased, but my nutrient needs hadn't. I needed more vitamins, minerals, and fiber, but fewer empty calories. Another surprising fact was that my digestive system produced less acid, making it harder to break down certain foods. This explains some of my bloating and discomfort. I also discovered that hydration played a bigger role than I'd realized. Older adults often drink less water, sometimes mistaking thirst for hunger or fatigue. I decided to keep a water bottle with me at all times and sip throughout the day. Despite all this new knowledge, I felt daunted. How could I shift decades of eating habits? How would I know which changes to make first? And what about the meals I loved? I didn't want to give up comfort food entirely. Around this time, I had a chance encounter with a neighbor, Mrs. Alvarez, who was in her early 70s and always seems vibrant and full of life. When I mentioned my struggles, she smiled knowingly and said, Margaret, I've been there." I had to rethink how I ate when I turned 65. It's not about deprivation, it's about balance and listening to your body. She shared how she gradually incorporated more vegetables, experimented with herbs and spices, and reduced processed foods. She also told me about joining a local community center's cooking group for seniors, where they shared recipes and supported each other. Her story gave me hope. Maybe I didn't have to do this alone. That night, I sat at my kitchen table and looked over my pantry and fridge. I realized how many processed snacks and sugary treats I kept just in case. I began making a list of foods to try adding: spinach, sweet potatoes, berries, nuts, and those to reduce, like white bread, heavy sauces, and soda. I also started paying attention to portion sizes, as my appetite wasn't what it used to be, and I wanted to avoid overeating out of habit. The journey was slow and sometimes frustrating. Some days, I'd slip back into old habits because they were easier or more comforting. Other days, I felt excited trying a new recipe or discovering that a bowl of oatmeal with fresh fruit left me feeling energized rather than bloated. Through it all, I kept reminding myself that this was not about perfection but about adapting to what my body truly needed now. Looking back over the past few months, I see how essential it has been to question my long-standing beliefs about food and health. Just because something worked in my 40s or 50s doesn't mean it's right for me anymore. Aging isn't just about physical changes, it's about embracing new ways to care for myself. I know I'm just at the beginning of this journey, but I feel more hopeful and in control than I have in a long time. My fatigue still comes and goes, and my digestion isn't perfect, but I'm learning to listen to my body and respond with kindness. If you're like me, holding on to old eating habits because they feel safe or familiar, I encourage you to take a closer look. Our bodies evolve, and so should our diets. It's not about giving up what we love, but about finding new ways to nourish ourselves as we age. I'm Margaret, 67, learning that health is a lifelong journey, and sometimes the hardest step is simply to start paying attention. After months of muddling through on my own, I realized I needed more than just articles and good intentions. My health was changing, and so was my body's response to food. That's when I decided to see a registered dietitian who specialized in senior nutrition. Her name was Lisa, and meeting her marked a turning point in my journey. Lisa greeted me warmly in her cozy office filled with colorful charts and jars of nuts and grains on shelves. She asked about my medical history, lifestyle, and the foods I loved and avoided. Unlike the generic diets I tried before, she didn't insist on cutting out everything I enjoyed. Instead, she focused on tailoring a plan that fit my unique needs. "Margaret," as she said kindly, "you're at 67, your metabolism is slower, and your nutrient absorption isn't what it used to be. We want to make sure you're getting enough fiber, vitamins D and B12, and antioxidants, but we also want you to enjoy your meals. It's about balance, not restriction." Together, we reviewed my typical day's meals and made small but meaningful tweaks. Lisa encouraged me to add leafy greens, like spinach and kale, for their fiber and vitamin content. She suggested incorporating fatty fish such as salmon twice a week for omega-3s, which help reduce inflammation. We talked about swapping sugary snacks for fresh berries and nuts, which provide antioxidants and healthy fats. We also discussed the importance of vitamin D, especially since I rarely spent much time outdoors. Lisa recommended I get my levels checked and consider a supplement if needed. She emphasized hydration, reminding me to drink water regularly, as older adults often mistake thirst for hunger or fatigue. What struck me most was how personalized the advice felt. Lisa didn't hand me a strict menu, but helped me understand why certain foods mattered more now. She gave me practical tips for grocery shopping and meal prep, making the whole process less overwhelming. Inspired, I started experimenting with recipes incorporating Lisa's recommendations. One evening, I made a spinach and mushroom frittata with a side of roasted sweet potatoes. The next day, I tried a quinoa salad bursting with tomatoes, cucumbers, and chickpeas, drizzled with lemon and olive oil. I was surprised by how vibrant and satisfying these meals were compared to my old staples. As I embraced these new foods, I noticed my energy improving. The fog that had hung over my afternoons began to lift, and my digestion grew more regular. Small victories like these kept me motivated to continue adapting. But I knew I couldn't do it alone. My friend Janet had mentioned a community cooking class for older adults at the local senior center. On a whim, I signed up. I nervously walked into a room filled with people my age, all gathered around tables with fresh ingredients and recipe cards. The instructor, a cheerful woman named Maria, welcomed us warmly and encouraged sharing stories and tips. We chopped, stirred, and tasted together, learning how to prepare nutrient-dense meals that were both delicious and easy to make at home. The class became a highlight of my week. I found camaraderie in this group of peers who faced similar challenges and triumphs. We exchanged recipes for fiber-rich soups, vitamin-packed smoothies, and low-sodium seasoning blends. I was amazed at how many creative ways there were to enjoy healthy eating. More than the cooking itself, the community aspect was healing. I felt less isolated in my struggles and more empowered to make lasting changes. The encouragement from others helped me stay accountable without feeling pressured. With Lisa's guidance and the support from my cooking group, I began to view food differently. It wasn't just fuel or a habit, it was nourishment for a body that deserved care and respect. I started savoring meals mindfully, noticing how different ingredients affected my mood and digestion. Some days were harder than others. Occasionally, I craved comfort foods that didn't align with my new plan. Rather than feeling guilty, Lisa had taught me to allow flexibility. Small indulgences were part of a balanced life. I learned to listen to my body's signals and adjust accordingly. I also discovered that meal planning helped reduce stress. By preparing portions of healthy dishes in advance, I avoided reaching for quick, processed options when tired or busy. Over time, these habits became second nature. One afternoon, while reflecting on my progress, I realized how far I'd come from those early days of confusion and fatigue. My relationship with food had transformed from rigid rules to a thoughtful, joyful practice. The vitality I'd been missing was returning, not as a dramatic overhaul, but through consistent, manageable changes. I'm still learning, of course. Aging is an ongoing process, and my needs will continue to evolve. But with expert advice and community support, I feel equipped to face those changes with confidence. If you're struggling like I was, I encourage you to seek personalized guidance. A dietitian who understands the unique nutritional demands of seniors can make all the difference. And if possible, find a local group or class. Sharing the journey with others turns challenges into celebrations. I'm Margaret, 67 years old, embracing a new chapter of health with curiosity and kindness. The road isn't always smooth, but it's richer and more rewarding than I ever imagined. I often find myself reflecting on the changes I've made over the past year, how rethinking my diet after turning 65 has reshaped not just my health, but my whole outlook on life. It wasn't just about food on a plate. It was about learning to listen to my body, honoring its needs, and embracing the natural evolution that comes with aging. When I first started this journey, I was weighed down by fatigue and digestive troubles that made daily life feel like a slow slog. I thought sticking to what I'd always eaten would be enough, but my body had other plans. Now, I feel a vitality that I hadn't realized was possible, a clearer mind, more energy to enjoy my hobbies, and the simple pleasure of sitting down to a meal that nourishes rather than burdens me. One of the most profound lessons I've learned is that aging brings new nutritional demands. Our bodies don't stay the same as we grow older, and neither should our diets. It's tempting to cling to old habits because they are familiar and comforting, but growth means adaptation. I had to accept that some foods I once loved weren't serving me anymore, while others I'd overlooked held the key to better health. This transformation didn't happen overnight. It was a series of small, intentional steps, consulting a dietitian who understood the unique challenges of senior nutrition, experimenting with nutrient-dense foods rich in fiber, vitamins D and B12, and antioxidants, and surrounding myself with a supportive community that encouraged and inspired me. These pieces came together to form a new way of living, one that feels sustainable and empowering. I've embraced flexibility in my approach. There's no guilt when I indulge in a favorite treat or enjoy a celebratory meal. Instead, I balance those moments with mindful choices that prioritize nourishment. This balance has freed me from the all-or-nothing mindset I once had, where any deviation felt like failure. Now, I see food as a source of joy and well-being, not stress. Sharing meals with friends from my cooking group has added another layer of richness to my life. We laugh, exchange stories, and learn from one another's experiences. This sense of connection reminds me that health is not just physical but deeply social and emotional. Food becomes a bridge to community, belonging, and support. I often tell my friends and anyone willing to listen that it's never too late to reconsider your eating habits. If you're struggling with low energy, digestive issues, or just feeling out of sync with your body, take the time to consult an expert. Listen to your body's signals and be patient as you make changes. The journey is as important as the destination. Some days, I still face challenges. There are moments when fatigue creeps back or when I question if I'm doing enough. But I've learned to be kind to myself, recognizing that health is a lifelong journey filled with ebbs and flows. I remind myself that progress is not perfection. At 67, I feel more empowered than ever to make choices that honor my body and spirit. The vitality I've regained isn't just about the foods I eat, it's about the mindset I hold. Aging doesn't mean decline, it means transformation, opportunity, and the chance to live fully on your own terms. If you're reading this and feeling unsure, know that you're not alone. There's a whole community out here, just like Margaret was when I started, ready to support and encourage you. You don't have to navigate this path by yourself. Reach out, seek advice, and open yourself to the possibilities that come with change. I'm still Margaret, still learning, still adapting. But now, I'm thriving. My best years are not behind me, they're unfolding right now, one nourishing meal and one mindful choice at a time. If you loved the story, like the video and subscribe.